Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Dragoon's Lair podcast. I am the Blue Dragoon himself, Daniel the Dragon, and with me once again, out of the sphere, we have the incomparable family man himself, James Haynes.
Hello, everybody. Trick or treat, bitches.
That's right. So we're recording a little earlier than we normally would because of the fact that we have Halloween right around the corner, and we wanted to make sure that we got this episode out in a timely manner.
Yeah.
So with that being said, it's going to be an interesting episode because we saw a disturbing series, which happened to apparently be season 3. We watched Monster, the Ed Gein story. We also went and we have the latest episode at the time of recording, which is the second to last episode of Gen V.
Yes.
And we'll really deep dive into that on the next episode afterwards. But we also went and we're going to get a nice little throwback of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah. The original, not this Jackie Earl Haley one.
That doesn't exist as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
And what was the other one that we said we were going to do? Do you remember? No? Yes?
No.
Exactly, because we didn't.
That's true.
No, I wanted to see if I could catch Jimmy off guard on that one.
Thank you, Warner Brothers and the Tasmanian Devil.
Actually, we should just really thank the voice actor.
Oh, yes. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Jim Cummings. For Tasmanian Devil himself. Now,
he's got a rumbly in his tumbly for some honey.
And an all-time...
The man is a legend.
He is not just a legend. I've gotten a chance to meet him, and absolutely wonderful of a human being himself, and a delight. So thank you, Jim Cummings. I have to just say that. Now, I will say I've got a couple of anime things that I want to address first off, because the Chainsaw Man movie is coming to the theaters right this upcoming weekend that this episode is being released.
Yeah, someone asked me, do you have to watch the show to see this movie yet? Or should we wait till...
Well, here's the thing. You don't actually have to watch all 12 episodes of Chainsaw Man to watch the movie, because Crunchyroll has 2 episodes that are basically anthologies to catch up. But it's 12 episodes.
I know, and you can catch that on Disney Plus if you didn't cancel Disney Plus. But anyway.
But yeah, and
getting back to Crunchyroll and anime.
Well, not just Crunchyroll, because I have to say, no one knew where One Punch Man Season 3 was going to be coming from. It's on Disney Plus, and Hulu. So congratulations. It's not getting pushed the way it probably should. And I will say the new opening just isn't as good as the original first season. So, and One Punch Man is a comedy of the fighting anime that we're used to. So so far it's been okay. We'll see how it progresses. Disney is going to make us wait forever to get the dub.
But in the words of Disney and everything, I'm Jimmy Crackcorn and
I don't care.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now
but I do care about anime. But
yes. But now there is an anime that I wanted to bring up, that Tojima wants to be a Kamen Rider. This is something that I think a lot of people can relate to, because this is a guy he's in his 40s. He grew up loving Kamen Rider, wanted to be a Kamen Rider, and through a series of things that are just happening, he's getting pulled into the Kamen Rider world, and he has trained himself that he can fight a bear. In the first episode, he actually fights a bear. So,
and I thought
but there is no official Kamen Rider in this world, so it's not like he has any powers. He is literally wearing just a mask of Kamen Rider. It's like a kid's mask, not even like a full helmet. And it made me think of a question that I wanted to ask everyone. Now, because this is very easily relatable, because as we were all younger, we all wanted to be a superhero or someone from a fantasy world.
A fireman or a policeman.
Yeah, those were the basics. But,
yes.
you grew up, you were watching a show, maybe you wanted to be part of the G.I. Joe universe.
You wanted to be Superman.
Yeah, maybe, you wanted to be Superman or Batman. Maybe you wanted to be a Power Ranger as a kid. Maybe you did want to be a Kamen Rider.
Maybe you wanted to be one of the Wonder Twins.
Let's not say that they did.
No, gotta shut up,
but the thing is, I want to ask everyone out there, the real question is, just to get everything rolling, who did you want to be, or at least what superhero, heroic kind of storyline did you want to be as a kid? Did you imagine yourself playing and being a Power Ranger or a Ninja Turtle or one of the G.I. Joes? Maybe you wanted to be He-Man or She-Ra.
Maybe you were traveling around the galaxy with Han Solo and Chewbacca.
Exactly. So we want to know, and this is the question I posed to our listeners, who or what series did you want to be a part of? Could you have wanted to be an original character of your own creation from your imagination? Or did you want to be one of the characters in the show? And I would love to know what that is. So you could leave us a comment on Dragoon's Lair Official, and you can send us a message there, or you can email us at dragoonslairpodcast@gmail.com. That's all one word. Dragoon is spelled with 2 O's. That's dragoonslairpodcast@gmail.com. Yeah. Sorry about that. Got a little tickle in the throat there. But no, so I think it's an interesting question because everybody wanted to be a hero or a villain at some point because, maybe somebody didn't like the heroes, which is something that ties in with One Punch Man because one of the characters in there, he always sided with the monsters. So he's been brought into the Monster Association in One Punch Man. So we have that there, along with Tommy Joe wants to be a Kamen Rider. But there is one other anime that I wanted to bring up because not only are we getting, My Hero came back, but so did Spy Family.
Ah, yes.
Spy Family has come back, and I love this anime. I loved seeing the movie. I got to see their movie in the theaters last year when it did come out. And I have to say, it's a very cute story. It's a very, really something that I think anybody can get into when it comes to anime. It has heart. There's a family element to it, but there's the spies and the assassins. So it makes it really interesting. And they brought it back, and it is starting off where we're finding out a little backstory on Twilight himself, Lloyd Forger. So we're seeing where he came from, his background, what got him involved in things. So I think season 3 is really starting off pretty strong. The first episode really has nothing to do with the backstory, but when you get into episode 2 and 3, because there's already 3 episodes, by the day that this comes out, there will be a 4th episode available as well. Also, I wanted to let people know that Ranma Half is actually back and airs on Netflix for their second season on Sundays. So it's like Saturdays, Sundays. So you got the weekend that it'll come out there. And it comes out the exact same day as Disney Plus will put out One Punch Man season 3. I hate having to say that. Now, outside of the anime conversation, we went and we looked at Gen V, and Jimmy, what did you think of the second to last episode of Gen V for season 2?
Oh, business is really, really picking up in a way. And you look at you finally get the question answered about who is this ugly looking body covered in third degree burns man, and you find out who it is, and it's like, oh crap, we're in trouble.
Now, I kind of felt like I figured out who it was in advance, but I didn't see the twist.
Yeah.
Because spoilers for anyone who hasn't watched the episode yet, which we're hoping you have,
yes,
and you're staying current with us. If not, try to just jump ahead. The time code should probably be, for our next topic, will be somewhere in our description for the video version.
Yes.
But otherwise, just spoiler warning right off the bat, it's Godalkin. And Godolkin, though, actually has an ability where he can control other people. So Cypher really wasn't even anyone who had any powers.
He was Cypher.
Godolkin took over some guy's body to become Cypher.
Who has a dog? He's like, I don't know, don't shoot. I got a dog at home and ever. I'm like, what a wuss.
Well, he's not a soup. That's the thing. You figure he went through all of this stuff and he's not even a soup, which made sense when you go back and you watch some of the earlier episodes where she went and she didn't see any trace of V in his system. So that tells you he wasn't a soup. She wasn't wrong in that one.
Nope.
So it just happened to be that the controlling element wasn't Cypher. Cypher was his own Cypher, basically.
And he's basically beating the crap out of his own body.
Oh, yeah. Well, you figure that Godolkin had to have been so frustrated that he was trapped in a body that wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that his entire plan is to cull all of the useless powers. And he looks like he's going to start a rampage in...
He's going to regularly go on a mutant, like almost a Gen V genocide in a way.
Well, we got to watch.
God.
We got to watch what we say because
yes.
Expressing certain opinions might get us blocked on TikTok or age restricted, which I find absolutely hilarious when you tell people to get along. But when it came to Gen V, though, I think this episode really had like a great element for Godolkin still controlling Cypher and fighting off, like using multiple bodies.
Yeah.
To be in control of.
And even up to this episode, you find out that Marie's sister is also...
She's been one for quite a while, and she even saw what was going to happen to the parents. So I think that also gave a nice explanation as to why she's a little more afraid of her sister, because she's also afraid of her own powers.
Yeah.
So... it's very interesting, and I like what they're doing. And we should, after the season's over, The Boys season 5, I believe, should be coming out soon enough. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays off of everything that's going to happen with Gen V season 2.
Absolutely, because was at Comic-Con on Mr. Johnny Cage himself for the next Mortal Kombat movie was in New York.
Yep, Carl Urban, which I have to say, what's actually really interesting is for the Mortal Kombat, bringing that up, they said that the studio is so excited about the second movie, they've already greenlit a third.
That's good.
That's good, but at the same time, this is going to be very interesting, because how are you doing this? There's, 12, almost 13 games that they have of history to go through. You've had 2 movies prior to this, not that were successful in the 90s. At least the first one was. The second direct to video, basically.
And then they did animated versions.
The animated ones are absolutely amazing. Although I will say, no matter how much I love Carl Urban, I almost wanted The Miz from WWE to play Johnny Cage.
Unlike having the voice of Joel McHale.
Yeah, which, hey, listen, Joe McHale.
Joe McHale is hysterically great.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I thought he was great as, what was it, the Star Spangled Kid?
Yes.
Or Starman, as you want to call him, when he got older. But yeah, it's like he did a great job for the CW show Stargirl. Like Joe McHale's been great so far, but
Animal Control.
Yeah, but I can really see, like, I could have pictured Mike Mazan and The Miz actually being Johnny Cage, because it's pretty much almost like typecasting, because that's what he does for WWE. So other than that, I mean, Gen V really they left us off on a good cliffhanger to see how they're going to deal with Godolkin coming back now that he's fully healed.
And who's basically gonna go after him, since everybody's basically, except for a certain couple of people, are under arrest.
Yep. But not only that, you have heroes that are on the run.
Yep.
So, Starlight is on the run in this. So we're going to see where all of this plays out. And hopefully the tie-ins into The Boys Season 5 are going to be well worth it. Now, other than that, we do unfortunately have to discuss something that disturbed me, which is Monster, the Ed Gein story.
And as Dan had pointed out, this is the third in Ryan Murphy's monster installment. For those that didn't get to see the first two, one was Dahmer, which
Yeah.
is about Jeffrey Dahmer and his little lovely chaos of
Yeah.
cannibalism. And
Let's
then
be
you
careful
had...
be careful with the phrasing.
I know. And then you have the Melendez brothers, Eric and Lyle.
Yep. Which there was some weird stuff. They seem to add some extra elements to these things, I guess, to make it a little more salacious and whatnot.
Well, that's Murphy. He gets more the expanded versions of it and everything because he's in Nurse Ratched, which if people haven't seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest
Yep.
and everything, please do. It's a beautiful 70s movie with Jack Nicholson.
Well, let's not forget it's the first time that you ever really got to see the Joker and the Penguin in the same movie.
That's right, Danny DeVito.
Yep.
And you basically get to see who she was out of it, and you see combined with all that, his little plots, and not too much on his glee and everything, but also like you got to see his horror, and
Yeah.
this went deep.
Yeah, I'm somebody
A
who...
lot of people that are, like you said, are disturbed, but I wasn't.
Yeah, my thing was this actually turned my stomach quite a bit, and I'm somebody who I love horror movies. I've lived off of horror. Little backstory, I used to work at a video store back in the early 2000s, and everybody looked at me like I was some kind of a weirdo every time the documentaries would come in for like the different serial killers. I thought it was interesting that we found all this backstory on them and everything. So, I thought these were kind of cool. I didn't watch Dahmer. I didn't watch the
Now I have to
Eric and
catch up
Lyle
on-
Menendez one. And
I saw the Eric and Lyle Menendez with the creator of Law and Order did it.
Yeah, but-
and that one is a lot. It hits a lot of interesting stuff and everything, and it annoys you in a way with it because it's like what they're getting to now, from there to now. It's like, yeah, they were basically railroaded.
Yeah, and
But
that's the thing, there was some elements I know for the monster version of the Menendez brothers that was supposed to make people feel empathetic to them, but also then there was another element that they threw in there of some like weird like relationship thing that I don't know how much I can say before certain platforms will like censor what I have to say, so I don't want to use certain terms, and I don't like censoring myself for certain things like this, but unfortunately
we have to.
Yeah, because the algorithms are not our friend at this time. But the thing is that for the story of Ed Gein, I mean, I knew a little bit about him, and I know that there were some liberties that were taken for this story, but this truly did disturb me to the point where I had trouble. I didn't even think I was going to be able to finish watching this for this episode.
I got finished with it in one day. When it first came out, I got finished in one day with it. It was like, just let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next one and everything. Because I've heard what the story. I never knew who Ed Gein was until I watched the trailer. Then I seen everything. I'm like, oh my God. I need to know.
I did know that Ed Gein played a role as an inspiration for Psycho.
Then I heard.
Didn't know that it also then was used for part of the story for Texas Chainsaw Massacre as well.
Toby Hooper did a great job using that.
And then there was also an element that they used for Silence of the Lambs.
And then you find out in episode 8 they use another term for him as just in the killer world, which is like, holy crap.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that it was very disturbing, and I know anybody who's probably into like crime series and stuff would find this very interesting. If anyone has an interest in these kind of serial murderers and stuff, I'm trying to watch the language. But the thing is, it is really disturbing. It was fascinating to a degree, And then there was certain things that like I could not really stomach. Like I had to like actually walk away and like pause it, walk away, come back a little later. It just
Oh, even certain situation in there, it's like, holy crap, why? It's like, why?
yeah,
But
and there
it
were
was like,
there were also other elements that they threw in that made it a little even more disturbing and kind of twisted because you know we all kind of heard some stories about Anthony Perkins, but now it was like they expanded a little more on his sexuality and him exploring like for the role for Psycho, and then not only that, but the FBI using for people who were inspired by Ed Gein to help look for other criminals. So there are certain elements to it that it was disturbing, but also one of the rationales behind it was for saying that Ed Gein saw things from World War II, that there was a twisted desire that twisted things in his mind. And I'm trying to be very careful with how I phrase things.
Yep.
Because unfortunately, AI censorship and things. So it's to talk about this, you know, we're not a crime podcast.
No.
So I'm not one of these people who could really delve deep into that. Now, if there was somebody out there who wants to expand on this and maybe get in touch with us,
message us on the Dragoon's Lair official podcast,
yes,
or the email address
which is dragoonslairpodcast@gmail.com. That's all one word. Dragoon is spelled with 2 O's. That's dragoonslairpodcast@gmail.com. Now, other than that, you know, like this was 8 episodes.
Yep.
And 8 episodes of something that was truly disturbing. Being in the mind of Ed Gein, from what they were trying to show, of someone who suffered from psychiatric issues. And they even make mention of the stigma that they were defunding psychiatric facilities by the end of it, which I will say is one thing, like we're very big proponents, Jimmy and I are both, for psychiatric help and making sure people get the mental help that they need.
Absolutely.
So the thing is that when you have to look at someone's psychological profile for something like this and see some of the disturbing nature to it, it makes it very difficult to stomach some of this. And I have to say, like the casting wise, Laurie Metcalf, absolutely amazing as Ed Gein's mother. And like, she's not even in it that much.
But she played an impact.
Yeah. And then, of course, Ed Gein himself being played by Charlie, I don't want to butcher the name. Hunan. But yeah, I always remembered him from Sons of Anarchy and a few other things.
King Arthur.
Yeah, but at the same time, it was like this was like a transformation, and I honestly think he should get an award for this performance.
I think even the guy that played Alfred Hitchcock was phenomenal too.
Yeah, even though it was like a very didn't look as much like Hitchcock,
but he did a good job. Him and the guy who was Toby Hooper were amazing.
Yeah, and even the one that played Anthony Perkins.
Yes.
So there was a lot of great casting in this.
And Mr. Bundy. Yeah. Not Al.
Yeah, no, no. I don't want to go like too in depth because you know
he was whoa.
There's a lot of tie-ins to others that were inspired by Ed Gein, and the people that then were inspired by him inspired others, which it's a weird...
It's like a domino effect of homicidal maniacs.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's really is a cautionary tale as far as I can see it as, because when you really think about it, we're looking at someone who is suffering from a dissociative disorder, and they even said it. He suffers from almost a multiple personality disorder, a schizophrenia, I believe, is what they said he was. So they were able to get him on medication, and he was able to do a few good things, at least from the story that they're telling. You know, how much truth and how much fiction were put together, the lines are very blurred. I will say that this is a very interesting series. I am not a fan. I do not believe I'm going to dip back in. I'm not going to watch the first season, which I believe was Dahmer. I'm not going to watch the Menendez brothers, and I'm definitely not going to watch, because I don't know if you
Lizzie Borden.
Yeah, the fourth installment. I think
It's like, the funny thing is that Ryan Murphy did like I said, Melendez brothers, but also it was also done by the creators of Law and Order. Now you're going to have him doing Lizzie Borden, which wasn't it also done by the actress was Christina Ricci? Did one for Lifetime?
I don't remember.
She did one for Lifetime,
Yeah.
but that's crazy. And you know what's even funnier?
Yeah.
Ed Gein covers all these. They cover all the who he covers, like Psycho, Texas Chainsaw, and everything. You know they're both on Peacock because they're both Universal movie, which is funny and everything. And it's hard and in the spooky season, but it's funny that it's on there like that.
I mean, we really wanted to look at something that was horror related, and this is something that is. It fits the description for horror, but it just it disturbed me on a level, because unfortunately the problem is, and this is an opinion, you can debate me on this if you want, but when someone is suffering from psychological disorders and they are on medication, it can this shows a light of what, if someone's not on the medications that could be helping them, you don't know really what they're capable of. And seeing something like this where it's a possibility that if he wasn't put on those medications, because you saw, like, before they put him on the medication, he was having the delusions all over again, and he was snapping. He thought he was talking to someone from World War II that was captured for some horrific things that they had done, as well as someone else who he thought he had a connection to these people because of the psychosis that he had. So when you see, like, people might not be on those medications or getting proper psychiatric treatments and talking to a therapist, it disturbed me in a way because of it, because you don't know what people are capable of, and then you see something like this, and it really makes you worry about who's out there.
Exactly. I mean, you have that version of the schizophrenia and everything with Ed Gein, as compared to John Nash with The Beautiful Mind and all the things that he did and everything, which is two entirely different spectrums. No pun intended using the word, but two entirely different spectrums of schizophrenia and everything.
You're right on that one, because there's a way that it can be creative and put to a good use, and then there are others that they don't put these psychological issues, which is one of the reasons why we always say the mental health is so important. But when you know that people are on these medications, and it's something that you could be worried about because you don't know if someone could snap. Exactly. And when this is an extreme example is like Ed Gein, but we don't know what someone's going through, and you don't know if them suppressing something could make them snap. It may not. So it's why Jimmy and I are very big proponents of people getting the proper mental health that they need. And I highly recommend anyone, if they're having any kind of struggles, to seek a therapist.
Yeah.
Talk it out, and then you'll find from there if it needs to go to a different place.
If you need any help or anything, please reach out to us. We're here for you.
Yeah.
You can email us
at dragoonslairpodcast@gmail.com. All one word. Dragoon is spelled with 2 O's.
Or you can catch us on the official Instagram, official Dragoon's Lair podcast
Well,
page.
it's Dragoon's Lair Official, the Instagram page.
Yes.
You can send us a message on in the Facebook group as well, with Dragoon's Lair Podcast. You know, there are ways to reach out, and we would love to be able to point someone in the right direction and help them get the mental care that they need. Now, there's a lot of things from Ed Gein, and it disturbed me to a point where I'm like, it's hard for me to talk about this because it was so disturbing. He saw people that weren't there. He heard voices of people. He was both people talking on a ham radio. So it was very interesting to see what he inspired, but it was disturbing to also see what he inspired, as well as who took inspiration from him. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to dwell too much into that because we
want to hear your opinions on the matter also.
Yeah, so if you have some opinions on it, you can leave us comments on the video version, on the audio versions. You can make sure that you do that on Spotify. You can leave us comments. You can do that on the YouTube page, Blue Dragoon 13, under each one of the videos. You can message us on Dragoon's Lair Official on Instagram, or same thing for Threads. You can also go and message us on the Facebook group as well.
Even our TikTok.
Yeah. Well, it's more my TikTok.
Your TikTok.
Yeah. Don't message me on those, but you can leave a comment and we'll be able to respond that way. I don't really want to delve too deep into that. It's because it also would probably trigger on TikTok the algorithm to cause some issues. There are words and phrases and things you can't say. So, I don't want to encourage anyone to get themselves banned. I also don't want to encourage anyone to do anything that would harm themselves or anyone else for that matter.
Please, I'm still trying to figure out who put the AI up of. They had a slap fight between Bob Ross and Bill Cosby.
I'm going to say this, we have to address this because AI is getting out of control, especially with the Sora AI stuff. They're making all these videos and of celebrities that have passed away, and their families have spoken out about this. And I have to side with the families on this because AI generated art can be an interesting thing to try out.
It can be good.
But there are certain things you're poking at wounds for people that it could be very disturbing. I believe it was Robin Williams' daughter and his family, they don't want to see videos of you making footage of Robin Williams doing things and interacting with stuff that, it's twisting a legacy around, and it's not as creative as you think it is. If you want to come up with an animated character using an AI tool and stuff,
that's fine.
I see less harm in that. But at the same time, there are a lot of people that are they have a complete aversion when it comes to AI generated art and whatnot. I mean, even the filters get out of control at times on TikTok and Snapchat and Instagram. So it's one of those things where filters, they're fine for the most part. It helps with skits and things when you don't have the money for special effects to do, or you're doing everything on your own. But there comes a certain point where the AI has gotten out of control. And
Mr. Rogers in DX.
Mr. Rogers in D-Generation X, not only that, all the wrestling videos of celebrities who have passed away.
Prince and James Brown in Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the one of Biggie and Tupac fighting in a WWE ring.
I stopped. I didn't even want. I stopped after seeing the intro. I'm like, why?
And that was the thing.
That's.
And this is something that I'm going to say because AI is only getting better. It's not getting worse.
No.
And some of them I've seen, they don't even have the Sora AI logo that would be right in the corner. And that is a problem because the fact that the AI is getting to a certain point where it's hard to distinguish. I can tell certain things are AI, but even I have to question a few things. And you and I both have a degree in film. Mm-hmm. So it's very difficult when people who have degrees in film are having trouble discerning what's real and what is AI.
I mean, let's get back to even the major point that where this really, really goes. If you go back to it, and do you remember the Superman, the Christopher Reeve story video?
Yeah.
Do you remember what they did?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. When they did that point, that's the worst of the beginning of them all, though, and everything. I mean, it hits you with a tear in your eye, and you wish that it would happen, but the family, it still breaks, and even some of the fans and everything.
And if you want to make these videos, I understand you're testing things out, you're figuring out how this technology could work and how it could benefit you or help you create something that for yourself. But please be respectful for the families of the people that you are using their likenesses of.
Likenesses, and also if you're using music without their permission.
Yeah.
Because we already had a situation where Kenny Loggins went online because a certain person used Danger Zone, and he's like, I didn't give any permission. And he's like, take it down.
Yeah, and that's the thing, there are permissions, there are legalities that go on, and, you're taking a chance that you are going to hurt someone emotionally, possibly financially. This could backfire on you if you go and overuse this AI technology. I'm not saying not to use it, but I'm saying use it respectfully when it comes to other people and pre-existing properties and people, because you want to make to see what an AI generated version of taking a cartoon character and making them look like what they would look like if they were a real person.
Yes.
That can be kind of interesting and like creative. But when you go and you start taking actual celebrities who have since passed on, and there's some that I found that are very like touching, of like maybe like a cartoon version of Eddie Guerrero welcoming like Bray Wyatt into the afterlife, but that could also be seen as something that could hurt the family members on both sides, because they're people who have passed away. The AI situation is very tricky, and I'm not somebody who is 100% versed in it, but I do not want to see people like starting to twist things and hurt family members of these celebrities. And I can understand where they're coming from, because if you've lost anyone and to see like an AI generation of them, it can do more harm than good, whether you realize it or not. Now, we're going to go slightly into the vault as a nice little throwback. So, Jimmy, would you like to do the introduction for Nightmare on Elm Street?
Yes. Nightmare on Elm Street, where it begins, where you see a glove starting to be created by and a lot of people don't know this, and he's credited in the opening and the closing, Robert Englund, as Fred Krueger, not Freddy. In the first one, he's known as Fred Krueger.
Yep.
And it says it in the credits. So if you want to argue, watch the movie over. But you get to see this razor glove being created.
Yep.
For the dreams.
Which, just to touch on that one, a little interesting thing I saw that Robert Englund had talked about for the glove, because the way that they made it, it was actually metal, and there were some injuries that did happen because it was sharp. And yeah, that's why nowadays there's a lot of props and like they've learned, but back then it looked very real, and it was a lot realer than it probably should have been.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what is it? Almost like the RoboCop when he had the spike.
Yep.
And they had to get rid of it.
Yeah. The spike was there. It was used, but they had, when using it, they had to use another version of it because of safety concerns. Yes. And I completely understand that. Now, the thing is, like, Nightmare on Elm Street is probably one of my all-time favorite horror movies, especially because the director, Wes Craven, was someone I would consider an idol to me when it came to being a filmmaker.
He was a horror icon.
Not just a horror icon. You know, I don't think he got like the credit that Wes Craven truly deserved as a filmmaker and a creator, because he was able to do things with the horror genre that I think a lot of people just didn't understand, and they overlooked a lot of it. But one of the real interesting things is, you know, he made a movie that a lot of people didn't realize. He did that because he was able to get a deal to do other horror movies, but he wanted to make a movie that wasn't a horror movie. And he did Music of the Heart. And the movie is highly overlooked. He's done so many movies and is an icon in the field. And he is greatly missed by myself and other horror fans, because you know, the Scream franchise wouldn't be what it is if it wasn't for him and the first Scream movie.
Exactly.
So now, not only that, but, you know, this is a story that came out in the 80s, and that was also a time when there was a lot more going on about a panic of, like, someone taking, like, children being kidnapped and whatnot. So there was that was like a hidden thing behind it, where if you're looking at it, children going missing or not being around anymore because of circumstances. As you can tell, I'm really frustrated in trying to censor myself here. And once we're out of spooky season, hopefully I won't have to do this as much. But the thing is, like, Wes Craven created this character off of something that he said happened to him as a child, where he saw outside of his window some guy was out there in like in a trench coat and the fedora, and it just, that image stuck with him. So when he was able to create Freddy Krueger, and yes, I know you say it's Fred, but we
all know him as Freddy.
But that's also because I think after the first movie, there became more of a familiarity, so it made it easier to call him Freddy.
Yeah.
But absolutely, like, this was one of those movies that it capitalized on the panic, but also one thing that inspired him was nightmares. Nightmares are something that we all have fears of. You can't control having a nightmare.
No.
And it's that loss of control that can really affect people. And there was the story of a child who went, and the teenager, he stayed awake, did all these things to keep himself awake for so long, and that caused a mental break in that person. And unfortunately, they weren't with us anymore, which is where part of these stories that inspired Nightmare on Elm Street came from.
Yes.
You know, a lot of people have talked about Nightmare on Elm Street in the past, which is why I'm trying to give a little bit more of a backstory to the story itself and where it came from.
And you could tell something was going to happen. Could you hear that? Do, 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 do.
The music,
yes.
The music was absolutely perfect for it. I mean, later on when they started in with the 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you.
Yes.
Like, that became so iconic, and that was more towards the end of the movie. But I mean, this was an unknown cast, really. I mean, Robert Englund, it was probably the most well-known.
John Saxon was actually more over him.
Yeah.
You knew Robert Englund if you watched in the 80s V.
Yeah, which I loved V.
Yes.
Robert Englund is an absolute icon in and of his own right. And unfortunately, I've not gotten the chance to meet him. I've gone to conventions where I had the opportunity, but unfortunately, because Robert Englund is so generous with his time with the fans, the lines take forever.
You got to get there. You got to get there at least or very early to be on.
And in the early 2000s, I had gone to a Fangoria weekend of horrors where I had the tickets bought that I would be able to meet him, but the lines were so long. The convention was pretty much wrapping up, and his line was still going. So the people I was with, we decided to go. I regret that decision to this day. But I haven't gotten to meet a few of the other people from the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise throughout the years, but Robert Englund really is like that one big regret that I have, that I didn't get a chance to meet him.
And it still cracks me up that this was Johnny Depp's first movie
Yep.
and his first role.
Which I have to say, he did a great job.
Yes.
Heather Langenkamp. The only other way, like, I knew Heather Langenkamp was from Just the 10 of Us.
Yes. I was trying to remember the name of the show with Bill Kirchenbauer with her as the coach.
It was the Growing Pains spin-off
Yes.
series that most people didn't realize because all the characters came from Growing Pains.
Mm-hmm.
So then Coach Lubbock went off, got his own spin-off show.
Where did he go, to Idaho or something like that? Or
Somewhere, I think, in the Midwest.
Yeah.
And you know, him, his wife, and all their kids, 10 people in total. I'm like, I don't understand how any family has that many people in one household.
Hey, they didn't watch TV that much, did they?
I think that was the problem. They didn't have a
I
TV.
know.
But no, so back to Nightmare on Elm Street, though. John Saxon playing Nancy's father.
Yes.
And you had Amanda Weiss, who she was the first person that was introduced into the nightmares, seeing Fred coming after her. Like, the effects were done practically. And I think those practical effects are what makes the movie able to withstand the test of time. Because you might sit there and think, like, oh, this is kind of cheesy. No. These effects really hold up the test of time to this very day.
The bed scene with Johnny Depp.
Yeah, which we can't really go into it, but knowing that I believe the room was like on a gimbal, so they flipped the room upside down, which was the same thing that they had used, a gimbal, for having Amanda Weiss's character like going all along, being dragged throughout the entire bedroom while she's trapped in that nightmare.
And the funny thing is, her boyfriend is also, like, everybody's linked to something. Her boyfriend, he was in it. I always remember, it was like, oh, shoot, that's the guy from Wildcats with Goldie Hawn. Yeah. He was the burper and the noises.
And that's the thing. Like, this was a young cast, like, and they all went on to do more and more things. Yeah. The funny part is, like, Robert Englund has become a true horror icon. John Saxon, I believe, has passed on since then.
That was basically his. He did a few good guy roles, but I mean, he was always a villainous role and everything that.
He had a very eclectic career. Mm-hmm. And I mean, everyone remembers him from Enter the Dragon.
Yes.
But the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise was one of those things that really stuck out. You figure he did 3 Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and I believe so did Heather Langenkamp, was 3. Johnny Depp did pop back up, so I know he did at least 2.
I don't think anybody was in the second one. The second one was kind of cheesy.
No, the second one was a whole different story.
And cheesy.
But it also, Wes Craven had nothing to do with that one, so it was capitalizing on the success of the franchise.
That's like the Season of the Witch Halloween 3 back in the day with Carpenter.
Yeah, the one we don't talk about.
Yeah.
You know, which, it's not a bad movie. It just shouldn't have fallen, like, it falls into an alternate timeline because of the fact, like, for Halloween 3, Halloween was originally supposed to be an anthology series. Every Halloween was supposed to be a different story, but when Halloween 2 followed the events of Halloween 1, then making 3 a completely different thing really did throw things off. So there really wasn't a lot that could be done there. But back to Nightmare on Elm Street, though. I mean, having the villain be someone who stalks people in their dreams and taking a revenge, if you will, on the people that took him out. And there's a big difference between what we all knew Freddy Krueger as to what was then. And I'm going to address it because in the remake that was done, they made it where everyone liked Freddy back in the 80s into the 90s because, you know, he did his thing, but they never implied anything else. There was an implication in the newer one that he was not just... He abused the children in a more adult way rather than just maybe offing a few people, where it was a little easier, I think, to swallow someone who offed people rather than someone who abused
Exactly.
children. So there's that whole thing. I hate using these coded things and
But you say it in the layman's term.
and I'm hoping that this doesn't get flagged.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I needed a good laugh after the Ed Gein stuff because that just. Oof. But yeah, so I mean, the thing is, like, Nightmare on Elm Street, like, it was innovative, and seeing like how the dream world interacted with the real world, like, it set up its own set of rules, and that we find out throughout the course of the movie. If anyone hasn't seen Nightmare on Elm Street, first off, have you been living under a rock?
Where have you been?
Yeah. This is classic film, like, education here when it comes to Nightmare on Elm Street, where I believe, like, I can understand, like, people who have an aversion to horror movies and stuff, but Nightmare on Elm Street is one that if you have any interest in horror whatsoever, I highly recommend. This is one of those must-see horror movies.
You always got to remember, with us, it's Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, Pinhead.
See, Pinhead didn't
But
really...
but that's why he's on the bottom of the list.
Yeah, the thing is,
And then you got Phantasm in there too.
Yeah, the tall man.
Mm-hmm.
Angus Scrunton, which unfortunately he has passed away over the year, like a few years back.
But this is basically what we had and everything, compared to when you were younger, you had the Universal horrors and Hammer.
The thing is, I actually, for my list, yes, it's Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, but I have somebody that's right there along with, like, Michael Myers, which would be Angela Baker from the Sleepaway Camp franchise.
Okay.
Which I like to refer to the second movie as the siblings movie. Because Angela Baker was then played by Pamela Springsteen, Bruce Springsteen's sister,
yes.
who has become a photographer who actually has done a bunch of, like, the photography and photos for his album art and stuff, as well as Renee Estevez, who was in the movie as well, the sister of Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez. So there's, like, horror movies have had, like, this long history. And Nightmare on Elm Street is one of them that I believe revolutionized the series when it came to the horror genre as a whole. Because without Nightmare on Elm Street, there are others that came before it that helped shape Nightmare, but Nightmare did something a little different because you have the villain is coming at you. He's an unstoppable force when it comes to the Halloween franchise. When it came to the Friday the 13th franchise, didn't start off as this unstoppable like creature. It was a mother taking vengeance for the loss of a child. And then you go and you take further on when you got to 2 and 3, it slowly evolved into the unstoppable force that just kept coming. But Nightmare on Elm Street was that thing where it was the fear and the belief in that villain is the thing that kept him strong and was able to keep him going and coming. And, like, one of the most innovative things, I believe, was Nancy pretty much was the precursor to Kevin McAllister from Home Alone.
Yeah.
Because she set up a series of booby traps in the real world so she could pull Freddy out of the dream world into the real world to be able to stop him. Now, I think I will say, because we did say, like, how the special effects have held up over the years, there is one effect in the movie that does not hold up at all, and it didn't even look that good back then. And do you know which effect I'm talking about?
Not the car at the end of the movie.
No, not the car. The car isn't the problem.
The car is the cute thing at the end. That was good irony.
It was the mother being pulled through the tiny little window of the door. The ragdoll body that they came up with, it's the only effect in the movie. I think also because it was very bright when they did it, that it just didn't feel right. And it just didn't work properly for the franchise as a whole. Now, and that's the thing, when you look at Nightmare on Elm Street, it was innovative. I didn't want to do us talking about the story itself the whole time, because it's been there, done that. There are plenty of people online who have broken down Nightmare on Elm Street in so many different ways. And if you're interested, there's the documentary Never Sleep Again, which is a documentary about the full Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and that was all done before the remake. So, which we typically, I believe most Nightmare on Elm Street fans, no one addresses the remake whatsoever, because it's not Robert Englund. It doesn't fit into the mold of what we all know for Nightmare on Elm Street. And that's just how that usually plays out. But when it comes to it, Nightmare on Elm Street is one of those movies where I feel like you can go years without seeing it, but it will leave an impact on you even after decades of not seeing it. I know there are people they couldn't even get through the movie because it caused them to have nightmares.
It's you always got to go back to the Nightmare on Elm Street. You always got to go back to. A lot of people go back to the Scream movies, the Friday, the Halloweens and everything now. And now, since with the new Halloween, the 3 that came out and everything.
And there was a lot of controversy behind those. A lot of people didn't like them. I actually enjoyed them.
I enjoyed them, and I liked what they did.
Yep.
Actually, what they did to it.
And I also like the fact that it changed the franchise and I believe fixed some of the problems from some of the lackluster sequels, even though there were sequels that I enjoyed. I enjoyed 4 and 5.
Yeah, Danielle Harris.
Danielle Harris was absolutely amazing in those, and I think they worked really well. It built on the story, but H2O went and it didn't do what it should. Number 6 didn't really fit. And so there were certain ones that they didn't fit, or certain elements just fell flat. But 1, 2, 4, 5, they made sense. But then going back and now basically saying, okay, there's 1, there's 2, or maybe you can skip 2, you still just have the first one, and then you go for these more current 3.
Yeah.
Which I'm okay with. I didn't see the issues that other people did, but if you'd like to tell us what those issues were, feel free to email us at dragoonslayerpodcast@gmail.com. All one word, Dragoon is spelled with 2 O's. That's dragoonslayerpodcast@gmail.com. Now, I say that mostly because, I'm always interested in hearing what people have to say when it comes to certain areas of horror. Because there are horror movies out there that I think most people don't even remember. And then there are others that they inspired people to make movies. There's so many of these low-budget horror movies out there that I think don't get the credit that they deserve. And there's a huge lost media out there from the lower-budget 80s horror movies that no one ever thought to digitize. And it's a shame that we're losing out on seeing some of these classics that you may remember as a kid, but we don't have video stores like we used to. There's no mom and pop store. There's not really a Blockbuster anymore where you can rent these things and see them.
No, you can stream them you got to go online if you have a Roku or an Amazon and hit the search.
But even then, some of them aren't there, which... Shudder put out a 3-part documentary series, In Search of Darkness. I don't know if they'll come out with a 4th one, but In Search of Darkness really went through, and it's really long. The 3rd installment is 5.5 hours. But it goes through the different genres within horror and goes through the 80s, discussing the different movies. Each one focuses on a different aspect of it and some different of the actual horror icons and the franchises that they're from. So it's a great documentary series. If anyone wants to check that out and you have Shudder, I highly recommend the In Search of Darkness series to watch. Just know you're going to spend a good amount of time watching this because they're long. They're not.
Agreed.
It's not a short documentary series. You know, I feel like that would have probably been a better use of my time, even though I've already seen them, than watching the monster stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not somebody who's very squeamish, but that just it really did affect me.
It affected you.
Yeah, and it did its job, I will say. It did its job. Nightmare on Elm Street was something that did its job back in the day, but I also wasn't someone who had that fear when I watched it as a kid. I mean, I didn't see it when it first came out. I eventually saw them more on home video release. You know, and the worst part is I did see the second one. I actually saw them out of order. So I actually saw the second one first, and it just...
I've seen them somewhat in order.
I've seen them in order since, but as a kid renting stuff, and you never knew which one you were renting, you were just like, oh, okay, the box art looks kind of cool for this one. So watch things out of order. There were certain movies I'm sure I shouldn't have been seeing when I was younger, but different times, and when we were younger, the rating system was very different back then.
Exactly.
So, there's so much different nowadays as there is where there's a little more caution, there's a little more of these other things that are going on when it comes to being able to supervise and understand, and that's one of the things that we're lucky about, that we have these libraries that we can go through. I like to keep my physical media of anything that I can hang on to, that I still have, because there are certain times you can't see things. And unfortunately, that's why digitizing these older movies, whether they were successful or not, you never know what lost media could be out there that you never heard of, but somebody brings it up. And then it becomes the Mandela effect of, we don't know. It's like, oh, I remember the Bear-Stein Bears. Well, they're the Berenstein Bears. It's, so it changes the dynamic to certain
And
elements.
You're saying about all the dynamics with the videos and everything. If you remember that, being a horror buff as yourself, that episode of Cribs with Rob Zombie and his little room of VHS, Laserdisc, DVD. He has Blu-ray and 4K now.
I'm sure at this point his collection has grown.
Oh yeah,
substantially. But I mean, there's a lot of people that their collections are vast, and they've done some great work. And there are people that I have to say, like on TikTok, that they talk about the latest horror movies coming out. There are some people that are specifically about Freddy Krueger and Nightmare on Elm Street. We could spend way too much time talking about the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, which, if you'd like to see that, maybe you make a donation on our coffee link that is on the Dragoon's Lair podcast Facebook page. So you can always drop us a few donations there. We're not asking. It's up to you if you want to or not. But anything that you donate, or if you want to make a request, it helps us out, and then we can always go and we'll give you guys a shout out. Not only a shout out, but also if you are suggesting something for us to watch, we're more than willing to take a look and see if we have the ability to watch it and when it's available. Because before we started recording, I was watching Empire Records.
Yes.
And it's leaving, and the main reason why I started watching it was the fact that it is going to be leaving Netflix. So it could be gone by the time this month is over.
And be on Prime next month.
Which happened actually to The Good Place. It left Netflix and is on Prime. So, if you don't have one streaming platform or another, you got to watch certain things when you can. And I always loved Empire Records.
Yes.
So it's
great movie, great soundtrack.
Oh, absolutely.
Great cast.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So when you have movies that they could be leaving, and this is what I say, when you don't have a physical copy of it, you miss out because you may not be able to see something when you want to watch it. So with that being said, our spooky season is coming to a close for the most part. Now, there may be some things that we could slip in, because there is the HBO series that is going to be starting up, as of Halloween, Welcome to Derry.
Absolutely.
And I don't know how I feel about that. I'm interested, but at the same time, how much interest is there? Let us know, and you can do that by leaving us a message on Dragoon's Lair Official on Instagram, or send us an email at dragoonslairpodcast@gmail.com. All one word, Dragoon is spelled with 2 O's. That's dragoonslairpodcast@gmail.com. Now, Jimmy, you want to give everybody your socials and let everyone know how they can get in touch with you?
Well, besides watching me on Tubi, We Are Family, all 10 episodes, any time of the week, any hour of the day, you can reach me at Snapchat, James SI0925, all lowercase letters. You can reach me on Instagram and Threads, James H_the4th, all lowercase again. Facebook, James Haynes the 4th, and TikTok, James0925, Blue Sky, James0925. And special shout out to all our favorite toy guys who will have the Funkos of Freddy, the Funkos of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the figures and everything. You want to know who they are? Let us know. We'll get you the information.
All right, and the easiest way to get in touch with me is Blue Dragoon 13 on Blue Sky, Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok. We have the Twitch channel that unfortunately hasn't really been getting much use lately, but that if you guys drum up some interest, maybe I'll stream on Twitch at some point soon. But there's also a link in all of my socials to join the Discord group, so you can join there and we can build this community up even more. But you can always follow us on our Facebook page, Dragoon's Lair Podcast. There's Dragoon's Lair Official on Instagram, which also Blue Dragoon 13 and Dragoon's Lair Official both have Threads pages as well, so you can always reach out to us there. And you can also go and make sure you listen to us on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. You can listen and watch before anyone else on Spotify, because the video versions drop there first. You can listen to us on Apple Podcast, Amazon Podcast, iHeartRadio, and even on, what was that again? Oh, that's right, Audible. As well as the Blue Dragoon 13 YouTube channel, which the episodes drop 1 week after they have already been on the other audio versions. But if you want to wait and see our smiling faces, you can go and make sure you check us out, and make sure that whatever platform you're on, you like, share, subscribe, hit all the buttons, do the engagement stuff that will help us reach other people, leave us reviews on Apple Podcast so that this way more people can discover the show. I want to say thank you really quickly to our friends Chris Sorrentino and John Zaluga for putting out a great book. Their Star Wars comedy book is available on, what is it, on Amazon?
It's on Amazon and soon to be in JHU if you're on Staten Island.
Yep. So we want to make sure that you guys check out their comedy book of Star Wars jokes. Trust me, it's definitely worth it. We're not seeing a dime from pushing this. This is just, they're friends of ours, and I honestly think these guys are really funny.
Yep.
We've known them for a long time, and they deserve the props that they deserve for putting out a book, because that's a hard thing to do, putting out a book.
Yep.
So with that being said, I want to thank each and every one of you for being with us. We want to thank you all for enjoying this spooky season with us. We will be discussing the final episode of Gen V in our next episode. So trust us, we're going to talk about it and the overall feel from season 2 of Gen V.
Exactly.
So with that being said, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Now get out.
Trick or treat, bitches.